Well, cocksuckers, it's your boy the Hater. New season starting today, motherfucks. Hater season, what? Like, I guess we're still on year, 2, but whatever. Fucking Hater season 3 starting today, motherfuckers. Subscribe right now to the Hater channel. Just like the Hater starts a new season after WrestleMania, so does WWE, motherfucks. And that brings us to today's video, the review of the Raw after WrestleMania. Now, for those of you that don't know, the Raw after WrestleMania is a special Raw, motherfucks. It's a Raw that typically involves big angles, debuts, cool shit, and a raucous crowd. Now, of course, there was no raucous crowd, so suck a dick, you know what I'm saying? But the rest of this stuff was also absent, strangely. Now, a lot of people seem to be under the impression that the idea behind Raw after WrestleMania is just that it's a big Raw because the WrestleMania crowd, the smart fans, are there. It has absolutely nothing to do with that, motherfucks. The idea is this. Sometimes, maybe not this year or last year, but sometimes people watch wrestling with their friends and loved ones, right? So imagine this, motherfucks. Imagine you have a WrestleMania party, right? And you invite 10 people. Let's just say, and they each bring one person, right? Maybe their girlfriend or boyfriend, right? And some of these people have never watched wrestling. Now they see it for the first time. They're like, holy shit, this stuff's awesome. I want to see what happens next with this guy called Apollo Crews, who's like a Nigerian prince. So then they tune in to SmackDown, right? They tune into Raw if they want to see Lashley or something. And the idea is that you have an opportunity where Raw is going to be watched by not just the neckbeards, but a few people that have never watched wrestling, basically. And you might capture these people, so you try really hard to put on a good show to make sure they come back the next week. And then you can't contain this, you can't continue this idea of like every week being ultra exciting, especially not nowadays. So then you ease off, but that's the idea. The idea is you're supposed to capture new fans and retain the old fans and maybe even recapture some lapsed fans, right? That's the idea of the Raw after WrestleMania. It's not this like neckbeard bonanza that it has become, where people are like, oh, it's the smart fans, so they're gonna do things that the smart fans like. What do you mean? What do you mean smart fans? There's no such thing as a smart fan in anything. You're either a fan or you're not, dumb fucks. You know what I'm saying? That's like one of the most annoying things ever, is when fans are like, well, I know the history of this. Shut the fuck up. I don't give a rat's ass where Apollo Crews wrestled before this. I don't give a fuck. You're not a smart fan because you know that. Oh, Seth Rollins used to be called Tyler Black. I know that. Aren't I cool? No, you're a nerd. You know what I'm saying? That's what you are. But that's neither here nor there, motherfucks. So as a result, Raw and sometimes SmackDown, but definitely Raw, the night after WrestleMania, is a sort of rebirth, right? New things are supposed to happen. And when I say new things, I don't just mean new wrestlers debuting. I mean, that's obviously one aspect of it. You know what I'm saying? But there are other elements to it, cucks. There's other things to it. So for example, if it were up to me, the Raw after WrestleMania, there would always be a match between two people who suck ass and who last year were not like prominently featured, right? And one of those guys would then become prominently featured over the year. You know what I mean? So for example, like if you have Tozawa and Mustafa Ali, right? Like take those two motherfuckers. I would have on Raw, Tozawa beats Mustafa Ali clean. And maybe Tozawa gets a new gimmick, right? Mustafa Ali has obviously dropped the ball. This guy will never be a star, So why not give Tozawa a chance? I'm just throwing Tozawa out there. It could be anybody. Why not give Tony Nese a chance? Maybe Arya Davari deserves a chance. Perhaps Eric or Ivar deserve a chance. You know what I mean? Give someone a chance. And that's how I would do it. I'd be like, okay, last year all these people were jobbers. One of them we're going to pick and we're going to push him this year a little bit. And I'm not saying push him to the moon. I'm not saying make him the next, Drew McIntyre. But make him at least the next Andrade or the next Humberto Carrillo. You know what I mean? Does it really take that much to take Tozawa and be like, all right, bro, we're going to give you the same push as Humberto Carrillo because you're better than him. So we're going to give you that same push, see what happens. But they don't even do that anymore. Typically that would happen all the time. People would get these little mini pushes. Again, no one's saying that they would become like legends, right? But like one of my favorites, Christian. He went from like a tag team guy and he got like a mini push eventually. He became like European champion for a while, wrestled DDP at WrestleMania, that kind of shit, Val Venus joined like Right to Censor, like these little pushes, these little gimmick changes, and these like, I guess, reminders that these people are still there. Because like, If it weren't for people like me making fun of people like Arya Davari, no one would know this guy's in the company. You know what I mean? I'm not even sure if he still is, motherfuckers. So there you go. So typically, the Raw after WrestleMania has these moments. This was by far, I don't even think it's disputable at this point. I don't think anyone would disagree with me. By far the worst Raw after WrestleMania in memory. Okay, let's get to it, motherfucks. Let's get to it. Before we even start, I just want to say this, motherfucks. Obviously, subscribe today. Shut the fuck up and do it, motherfucks. Subscribe. Another thing that I want to say is that Backlash has now been rebranded WrestleMania Backlash. To me, this just indicates that people are extremely stupid and they don't really understand what Backlash means, right? You know? And obviously, if you put Backlash after WrestleMania, as has often been the case, not always, but often been the case, I believe, right? The entire idea in doing this is that this is the backlash of WrestleMania, right? It's implied in the name, motherfucks, and in its placing on the calendar. It's implied, right? Just like the Raw after WrestleMania, you know, you don't have to call it the Raw after WrestleMania. We know it's the Raw after WrestleMania because of the calendar, motherfucks. People used to be smart enough to connect the dots and realize that Backlash literally means that. It means like the aftermath, in a sense, of what happened at WrestleMania. People are going to feel the brunt of the things that happen at WrestleMania. But it was always meant to be a new beginning, right? Nowadays, this is not a new thing this year, so I'm not going to shit on it too much, because it's been happening for several years with Extreme Rules or whatever the fuck it was after WrestleMania for a long time. You know, this happened a lot. Where, like, the pay-per-view after WrestleMania, I think Extreme Rules typically, in the last few years, is just another WrestleMania card. It's the same card. You know, like these matches that people presented as once in a lifetime or being big deals, they just happen again at Backlash or at fucking Extreme Rules. The only difference is that the real good matches of WrestleMania don't happen again, right? So you might remember all these other Extreme Rules, right? Where it's like all right, Jericho and CM Punk had a WrestleMania match. It felt like a mid-card match, right? And then next month they'll be fighting an Extreme Rules match at Extreme Rules, and I'm like, dude, I don't give a fuck. You know, but the good people in the card, like Undertaker, he's not going to go wrestle at Extreme Rules. So he's not going to be there. So basically, Extreme Rules is just WrestleMania minus all the WrestleMania shit, which really highlights the WrestleMania shit. It really highlights what makes WrestleMania WrestleMania. Bad Bunny isn't going to be around anymore. That's what makes WrestleMania WrestleMania, and Extreme Rules is Extreme Rules when there's no Bad Bunny or there's no Edge, let's say, whatever the case may be, right? Nowadays, and that's why part-timers are so effective, because they don't show up all the time. And then you realize, you're like, oh, that was kind of special when Undertaker came and wrestled Goldberg at like fucking Saudi Arabia. That was more memorable than Dolph Ziggler and Bobby Roode versus the Street Profits. You know what I'm saying? Would anyone really prefer to see Bobby Roode and Dolph Ziggler wrestle the Street Profits versus Undertaker and fucking Goldberg? I don't give a shit if Undertaker and Goldberg are 90 years old. I'd rather watch that than Bobby Roode and Dolph Ziggler wrestle the Street Profits. Because I don't want to see that at all. You see what I'm saying, motherfuckers? So there you go. The Monday Night Raw, I mean, we're going to do a quick review here, in the sense, just to say that we did a review, but there really were just a few moments in this show that are really noteworthy, you know what I'm saying? And I think that's really what I'm going to focus on. You know, I'm going to talk a little bit about what happened, right? And I'm going to talk about the only thing in this episode that, you know, could have resulted and could have been interpreted as being like, kind of like a Raw after WrestleMania moment, right? So first of all, Riddle comes out in Backstage, and he tells Lashley, like, I want to shot the title. Lashley says, dude, you just got your ass beat by Sheamus, and I'm the world champion, so that's not going to happen, kid, right? But they have a match anyways. Bobby Lashley wins. This was good. This was good from a storyline perspective because it ended the feud of Lashley and Riddle, right? The Riddle win over Lashley has been, and now has been reaffirmed, as being presented as a fluke. And him losing to Lashley, again, reaffirms that, right? It just shows that Lashley's on another level. Like, he got lucky, but 9 times out of 10, Lashley wins, right? So that's pretty cool. Now, however, the problem with that, of course, is that this should have happened before WrestleMania. You know what I'm saying? A lot of these things should have happened before WrestleMania. A lot of these things are season finale things, not season premiere things. You dig, motherfucks? So next up, we had, what's it called? The return of the Viking Raiders. You know, good for them, right? The Viking Raiders, they're back. They wrestled Cedric and Shelton Benjamin. I guess the whole story of this was like Cedric and Shelton are like basically on the verge of being pre-show jobbers again, and they suck now. So Viking Raiders whooped their ass. It was pretty one-sided. It's good to see the Viking Raiders. I mean, like, I don't like them, but, you know, they might as well be on TV if they're going to be there, right? Then we had Rhea Ripley and Asuka, another bad decision. You know what I'm saying? So before the match, Charlotte comes out. She was looking great. She was wearing a romper. You know, it was like a Ric Flair-ish romper, so it really fit, right? And basically, she comes out and she turns heel, right? She does the same shit she always does. I'm the best one. And she was like, I'm tired of being a humble fucking Charlotte, right? And I'm tired, motherfucks, of these wrestlers telling me how they all used to be humble and it led them nowhere. Apollo Crews, Charlotte, etc., right? But I believe that this is a good moment to illustrate the difference between a shitty heel turn like Charlotte's and a good one like Apollo's, right? Apollo's heel turn, it's the same argument. I've been humble, I've been polite, and it's led me nowhere, right? Charlotte says, I've been humble, I've been polite, but I'm actually the best, so kiss my ass, right? But the character of Charlotte didn't change at all. It's just her. She's just angry now. She's just angry because she didn't get the opportunity, right? Whereas Apollo Crews completely shifted his gimmick, you know? He's a different guy. And he should have different music. He should come out like, you know what I mean? In different garb as he has with a little scepter thing, the giant scepter. He now has like a valet. He became champion. He's completely reinvented himself. Whereas Charlotte, all she's done is she's pulled a Bayley or a Sasha, right? All these shitty heel turns that don't last. Have you noticed how heel turns in WWE just don't last? Someone just turns face without even turning face. They just turn face. You know what I mean? There's more on that in another video, motherfuckers, but we'll talk about it later. So anyways, Charlotte cuts her promo. The match happens. Charlotte interrupts the match about 15 minutes in. So we all knew it was going to happen, right? So the 15 minutes of the match that we saw were a complete waste of everyone's time. Now, I personally thought it would be more effective if the match just started, Charlotte came in, attacked them, then cut the promo, right? Then you could present Charlotte's return as like a big impact, you know? And it could be a moment where the fans are like, holy shit, it's Charlotte, you know? That would feel a little bit more like a Raw after WrestleMania. But instead they went with an ass-backwards approach, and they got an ass-backwards result. Next up, we had The Miz and Morrison versus Damian Priest 2-on-1. Hopefully this is the end of this feud. Damian Priest came out, he has no charisma. This guy has absolutely no mic skills whatsoever, you know what I mean? That's the problem. I think I finally figured it out. The reason why people like Kevin Owens and fucking what's his face, Damian Priest and these guys get signed by WWE when they're like 35, you know, is because they have no mic skills, right? Some of them are clearly impressive in the ring. Like Damian Priest is very impressive in the ring, but like when it's time to sign him when he's like 24, they're like, kid, you don't have any mic skills. You have no charisma. So it's like we need you to go fix that, and then we'll get you. And then eventually the time comes when the guy has no charisma because it's just sometimes you can't teach yourself that, right? When you have no charisma, and they're like, I will hire you anyways. Because, you know, like now you've made a name for yourself by doing some moves, you know? So basically what happens is the match starts. Miz and Morrison are in like their suits. Miz eventually gets pantsed, but he like rolls up Damian Priest, and with help from Maurice, who's there, he wins, you know? I wasn't sure if they teased like a little bit of a Miz Morrison dissension, because they kind of made it seem like Morrison was like left out, which I think wouldn't be the worst thing, you know? Morrison should be face for a little bit. Maybe he can go to NXT and hang out with his wife, you know what I mean? I don't know. He actually would make a compelling NXT champion because he is like really good, you know? He's way better than like everyone in NXT. So there you have it, right? Then we have Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler beating Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke in what was one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life. So the match starts. Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose come out. They're still looking great in their pink little leotard things, right? They come out. They do this whole bit about how Mandy Rose slipped and she didn't slip again. And then backstage before the match, she slaps Nia Jax for making fun of her for slipping or some horseshit. They attack her 2-on-1, right? The match starts. Nia's whooping that ass. And then Nia starts climbing the apron, right? She slips, like her leg kind of slips. You know what I mean? And she falls like kind of on her ass. And then there's this whole like laughter, like ha 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 ha. Isn't it funny? Nia felt like a dumbass. And Nia's like overly humiliated. You know what I mean? She gets in the ring and the faces leave. They run away. They're like, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. And one of the announcers is like, what's not worth it? Like he's asking the right question. He's like, what's not worth it? It's not worth it. You're supposed to be in a match, motherfuckers. Like in reality, you know, like they should do an angle where they have a new general manager and this guy just fires people who don't compete. You know, just straight up, like no, zero tolerance, right? Like if you run and give yourself a count-out victory, you're fired. I don't need you here on Raw. Go to SmackDown or something, right? That's what would happen in real life. It's like you're not even competing. What am I paying you for? You know? But these two broads, like this was like such a heel move. You know, maybe that's what's happening. Maybe they're going to turn heel or something and start bullying Nyla Rose, you know? Whatever. but it was a very heelish move. Like, they left, right? They didn't want to fight Nyla Rose anymore, or is it Nia Jax? I confuse it with the other one from AEW, you know? Nyla Rose, Nia Jax, same fucking shit. Same name, basically, motherfuckers. So, they, you know, they're out there. They don't want to fight her, so they leave. And also, just because Mandy Rose slipped at WrestleMania, doesn't mean that we have to have a clumsy retard storyline. You know, Nia Jax is already presented as a clumsy retard when she runs into things. You know? And now, all of a sudden, we have to write a story around the fact that someone slipped. Like, this is what it's come to, you know what I mean? Very, very poor writing. Very, very shitty match. Very, very shitty segment. Nobody wants to see this garbage. I really hope that all 4 of these people get released. I really do. Even Shayna Baszler. Like, get over yourself. You know what I'm saying? Beat it. You're not entertaining. None of you are fun. So there you have it, right? Then we have New Day versus Elias and Jackson Riker. And New Day, right? Kofi Kingston's face looks like someone took a shit on it, right? And he's out there making fun of, like, Elias and Jackson Riker for being ugly. It's like Kofi's like one of the ugliest people on TV, like, maybe ever. You know what I'm saying? Xavier Woods, all right, he's passable. Like, Kofi Kingston is not an attractive guy by any metric. Like, not even his physique is attractive. He looks like a little shit. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't help but think throughout this whole match, like, I'm pretty sure I could beat up Kofi Kingston with very minimal effort. You know what I mean? He doesn't feel like a wrestler at all. He feels like a normal guy. You know, he's got his positives. You know, I'm not going to sit here and just show him completely. He's got his positives, you know? But there's a lot of negatives. And they're talking shit for no reason whatsoever to Jackson Riker and Elias. 2 giants of men. Even Elias is big. But Jackson Riker would beat the shit out of both Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, right? And the things that they're saying to make fun of them are stupid. They're like, oh, Braun beat you up. Elias is like, dude, Omos kicked your ass and pinned you with 1 foot. You know what I mean? Which brings up another problem. The world champion, a former world champion being pinned by 1 foot is not normal, man. Yeah? But Kofi Kingston, I found this promo to be really stupid. Like, just like every other New Day promo. Like, they're not these cool, good-looking guys that they, like, pretend they are, right? They're, like, 2 ugly nerds. Let's call it like it is. They're, like, even Big E. Like, Xavier Woods is passable, but the other 2, they're just 2 ugly guys who are nerds, who didn't have any friends in high school because they weren't attractive, right? Then they started lifting weights and reading comic books. They found each other, and here we are. Whereas, like, Jackson Riker is like a military guy. He's probably a jock. You know what I'm saying? He's probably been getting laid his entire life. And it's ridiculous. You can't trick the viewer this much, you know? Like, Xavier Woods talking in an accent wasn't cool when he did it in drama club in high school. It's not cool when he does it on TV many years later. You know what I'm saying? That's not cool. Nobody responds to fucking weirdos in English accents. Hello there. Like, that kind of shit. That kind of hacky, like, middle-of-the-road nonsense comedy. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I'm going to have a funny voice. Are you? Are you going to have a funny voice? Do you think that's funny, motherfucker? It's not funny at all. It's stupid. And anybody that likes the New Day still, I don't know what to tell you, motherfuckers. I don't tell you. This shit's been, like, overplayed, like, 5 years ago, you know? It is what it is. I don't give a rat's ass, motherfuckers. Then we had the main event, Drew McIntyre versus Orton versus Strowman in a triple threat match to earn a WWE title shot at WrestleMania Backlash, right? Obviously, we all knew Drew was going to win. You know, this is one of those triple threats where I honestly believe it's going to be like Drew wins and the 2 other guys are going to be in their own feud. It's going to be like Strowman versus Orton because neither of them have anything to do right now. So you might as well have them have a feud with each other. You know, just a throwaway feud. I was 100% right. Drew McIntyre wins with like a sliding Claymore. The announcers, they're so stupid, they didn't realize that he was going for the Claymore. So when he pinned Randy Orton after hitting the Claymore, they were like, oh my God, Drew did it. Like, they were like surprised, you know? Like, they were actually shocked. And that new announcer, Adnan something, this guy's like one of the worst announcers already. Like, he's only been there for 1 day, but this guy has absolutely no emotion. He just says things. He feels like a nerd. He feels like a fan. You know, I don't like him at all, you know? The announcer dynamic has already been written and done to a T correctly, right? And you cannot and you should not change it, right? The typical announcer dynamic is intellectual, like play-by-play announcer who's a fan, kind of like JR, right? And former wrestler who kind of bullies the other one, and who's funny and does color commentary, right? That's always been the case. Every announce team that has worked has been that. Even what the fuck it was, like Todd doing it, Josh, motherfucks. You know, the NSYNC looking motherfucker from TNA. Josh and Matt Stryker, right? Those guys, they were a great announce team too, but it was the same dynamic. Matt Stryker played the role, he played both, the role of like the intellectual and the role of like the fan, and he did play-by-play, whereas the other guy kind of did color commentary, I feel like, you know? And it kind of alternated a little bit, but the idea still was one of them has to be a wrestler, right? They're trying this, or they tried it for a while with Samoa Joe as the wrestler. But Samoa Joe is a loser. He's a nerd. He's a comic book geek. You know, nobody wants to hear this guy talk, right? That's the problem, you know? And now it's just 3 straight men. It's just 3 regular guys like Adnan, Tom Phillips or whatever, and I think Byron Saxton. Right? It's just like the worst announce team ever created, you know? You need like a JBL or a Booker T or a Taz. Like a JBL who says, haha, Mago, like we got us a fly on Uso. That's what people want to hear. They want to hear some dumb shit and funny things said by a former wrestler, because former wrestlers typically are cool guys. Like if someone were to ask you, hey, do you want to get a beer with Samoa Joe or Booker T? Everyone in the world would choose Booker T. Matter of fact, Bad Bunny isn't going to make a song anytime soon called Samoa Joe. Let me tell you that, motherfuckers. You know, if someone said, hey, you want to hang out with JBL or you want to hang out with Adnan? Nobody would choose Adnan, right? That's what I'm saying. So you need a cool announcer. Every announce team has to have a minimum of 1 cool announcer. Corey Graves barely qualifies, but he kind of does. So that's okay on SmackDown. The rest of it is complete shit. And now, I have to say this. This is going to have its own video eventually down the line, but it has to be said. Alexa Bliss and Bray Wyatt are undoubtedly, like, if there is even one person now that likes Bray Wyatt, fuck you. Simple as that. Go fuck yourself. What do you think of them apples? If you like Bray Wyatt, you can go get fucked. Basically what happened was Alexa Bliss came out and explained fucking nothing. She basically said, I betrayed Bray Wyatt because I don't need him anymore. That was it. That was the big explanation. You know? I don't need him anymore, motherfucker. I don't need him. So then she introduces us to a new doll. The doll is called like Alice or some shit. Lily. That's what it was. Lily. And it's like this doll is supposed to be scary. And I was thinking to myself, you know what would be great? If Goldberg just came in, speared the doll, speared Alexa, hit a jackhammer on both. That'd be fantastic. You know what would be fantastic? If while Alexa's doing this I'm evil and I can do everything myself gimmick, right? The Dudley boys come back, right? And she's just to do some blood magic on him. And then Devon picks her up, gives her to Bubba Ray, who super bombs her through a table, reminding her that you're not a fucking demon. You're a retard, right? And then they take a shit right on the doll and they wet their ass with it, you know? That's what I would want to see. So basically the story is Alexa was tempted by the darkness and now she is the darkness. She is evil and Lily is the real thing we have to worry about. Why? Whatever source of darkness this is, it has produced nothing scary. Nothing has been scary yet. First, it was a fat guy with a Hawaiian shirt who got his ass beat by everyone who was an upper mid-carder. Then, the fat guy in the Hawaiian shirt, right, became like, or tried to become Sister Abigail. But he got injured or he got like some virus, like Ebola or something. I forget what it was. He got sick, so he left, right? Then he came back as Matt Hardy's sidekick. He was the number 2 guy to Matt Hardy. He was on the same level on the card as Butcher is on AEW. Right? So he wasn't scary, got his ass kicked by Matt Hardy several times. Then after that, same guy comes back, the fat fucking Hawaiian shirt comes back. Then he comes back as a slightly less fat children's show character who is embarrassing to watch. Then he comes back as a fucking clown, right, who also gets his ass kicked by every upper mid-carder. Then after that, he gets burned alive by a superior man. Then he comes back again as a burn victim, right? Then he's back to being the clown again, gets his ass beat, and now today he's back to being the children's show's character. And he says Bray Wyatt's going to have a rebirth. And those retards on the announce table, they're like, oh, Bray Wyatt's rebirth. Oh, what do you think it's going to be? I'll tell you right now what it's going to be, motherfuckers. It's going to be another fat version of the same fucking jobber who has no charisma. I don't care what anyone says. Oh, Bray Wyatt's charismatic. He does it well. No, he doesn't. What does he do well? He plays the role of a children's show character, and it's fucking stupid. It's stupid. Anyone that's entertained by this is missing chromosomes. They're retarded, motherfuckers. So there you have it. That's an insult to people that are actually mentally handicapped. You know what I'm saying? Because even they wouldn't like this shit. Yeah? So what I gotta say is this. Bray Wyatt is a piece of shit. This entire feud has been a complete waste of everyone's time. Randy Orton deserves better than this. This is this, like I would rather see Randy Orton versus Tozawa in WrestleMania than have Bray Wyatt take up one more second of TV time. This guy is a fucking loser. Nothing good has come from this. And now we have to tolerate the same shit with 2 characters. We have to tolerate it with Alexa and Lily. And then we have to tolerate it with Bray Wyatt and whatever the fuck his reborn version is going to be. I don't give a fuck what it is. I know this song and dance, motherfucks. He goes out there, people pretend he's scary. Then a real man like Roman Reigns or Randy Orton or John Cena beat the shit out of him. And then he goes and he has to reinvent himself again because this one failed too. Oh, I want one where I can win. No, you're never going to win, motherfucker. You're never going to win. Real men are always going to be... This is how uncompelling Bray Wyatt is. A normal real man is more compelling than him. Think about what I just said. Would you say that a normal real man is more compelling than a gimmick of a Nigerian prince with his African aide? Absolutely not. It's not, right? Because one is an interesting gimmick. The other one is just a scary guy. And when scary guy meets Goldberg, a real man, it goes without saying what's going to happen. Nobody wants to see like the scary guy beat the real man because it's stupid. Goldberg wouldn't be afraid of a guy in a mask. He'd be like, dude, you're a fat ass in a mask. I'm going to beat the shit out of you. And I'm going to enjoy every second of it. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with Undertaker. Undertaker's like, dude, I don't give a fuck. Like, I'm Undertaker. You're a fat fuck. And he beat the shit out of him at the end. So that's what I got to say about that. That was by far the worst part of Raw. The last thing to cover here is Retribution. That is T-Bar and Mace have joined fucking MVP in some capacity, right? Now, the announcers wanted to present this as a big deal, but it's not a big deal. All you've done is replace Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin with 2 bigger guys who are also jobbers. They're on the same level of the card. These are all Andre the Giant Battle Royal competitors that will not win. You know what I mean? Nothing is gained from this. Nothing is gained from this association, as we've seen. Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander, when they were paired up with MVP, they were tag team champions. Now they're losing to Viking Raiders, right? Same thing's going to happen to T-Bar and Mace. T-Bar and Mace will never get over until they actually become people. Take off their mask and they become human beings, you know? Plus, what the fuck happened? Why are they with MVP, right? And when I say why are they, I'm not saying like, I wonder how compelling the story's going to be. No, I'm saying this is fucking retarded and I don't care at all. You know what I mean? These guys were supposed to destroy WWE, now they're mercenaries. You know? It's this kind of shit that like makes wrestling horrible. Horrible Raw. Horrible start to the season, start to the year, motherfuckers. Take care of yourself, fuckers!